Okay, well here's a shot of some leather I was using for testing. I've laid down two guns here for reference. This is actually called, I believe, a farmer's bundle that you can pick up at Hobby Lobby. And I believe it was $5.99. You know, this is a chrome tan leather, you know, which from my understanding is not really desirable to use for holsters. And it also is, you know, it's quite pliable, so it's really hard to tool with it. But I bought this to do testing with because it was very inexpensive and it was something I could use to try to get my techniques down. Now, it was hard to work with, and I actually think the other leather that I purchased is going to be more suitable, but you can see where I've cut out, you know, a couple of patterns here to mock up, and I'll show the mock-up holster here in a moment. But for $5.99, you know, I think it's a good investment to you know, to have something to play around with, and you know, it's not a big loss, you know, if your pattern doesn't work out quite right, like my test did not. So, you know, the guns are here for a sizing reference. You know, on this particular Smith & Wesson 9, you know, you can see in this particular area, you know, you've got almost plenty enough room in this area to make a complete holster. You know, and the LC9, you know, as small as it is, you know, you can get quite a few out of this box lot. So, with that being said, I'm going to get my weapons out of the way here. They are unloaded. Just have to take my word for that. I did go to Tandy and I did purchase this is, I believe, 7 to 8 ounce leather that I did purchase, and this is a whole shoulder, a complete shoulder. And oddly enough, you know, they sell half shoulders, but the half shoulder cost as much as the whole shoulder. I just happened to quiz them in the store, and that's what I got. So I got an extra half for the same money. And I believe on this there's a sticker on the back just to give an idea on the costs. Sorry about that. This was actually 8 square feet, and it was retail of $58.57 plus tax. You know, and just to try to give a little bit of scale here, I'll just lay my weapons back down. You know, you can get an idea potentially how many holsters you can get out of this. You know, I don't know, but quite a few, so you can afford to make mistakes, other than the leather is a little more expensive. So with that being said, that's the leather I'm going to be using. 7 to 8 ounce shoulder, and I'll give a shot of my mock-up real quick and show that one. Okay, here's the shot of the mock-up holster that I had made last night out of the inexpensive leather, and you can kind of get the general idea where I'm going to be going with this particular holster. This one will be carried in the small of the back inside the waistband. So that's basically it. You know, hopefully this comes up. You know, I've hand stitched it and, you know, dyed it. This actually looks black, and it really does, but the stain that I have, which I'm wearing on my hands, is a mahogany. But since it was already dyed and I dyed over it, you know, it just went darker and darker. But the main problem with this type of leather, you know, maybe some guru leather folks out there can give me a heads up, but you know, you really can't burnish the edge of this, I guess, like you can a tooling leather. It's still really fuzzy, and since I was going for it, I was going to try to make it as pro as possible. But this is another option that you guys can explore. You know, this is that same leather double plied and stitched together to give it more rigidity. And you can see, even though it is double stitched, and I'm just going to guess that's 1/4 of an inch across there, you know, it's still really, really flimsy and pliable, and that's not really what I was going for, especially since this portion right up here is actually going to be a thumb press to withdraw the weapon, if that makes any sense. So this is something that I had played with the dye on, the neatsfoot oil, put sealer atop that, all in all, you know, for a first mock-up, I think it turned out quite nice. Now, where I kind of messed up was my pattern that I made was a little too small, so I'm going to have to make adjustments for that as I go. And the gun actually will not fit down in here, that LC9. So that's why I'm using the inexpensive leather, to try to work out all the issues before I start, you know, hacking into the premium stuff and coming up with a mistake. So I think from here we're going to get started on the pattern making process, and we'll see how it goes. Okay, well, we're getting ready to start laying out our pattern here, and what I'm using is just an 8.5 by 11 kind of thick cardstock piece of paper, just something I had. You can use a manila folder or some cardboard, you know. I'm using a small gun, so this should work fine. If you're using a larger gun, then obviously you'll need a bigger piece of paper. What I did was I, you know, marked a line down the center of the paper, and we're going to take the weapon and we're going to lay it on the paper and center that front sight down the line. I'll try to keep my head out of the way. And we're also going to center the back sight down the line, like so. And then while holding it, I'm going to slowly rock it down to the left, like so, and hold it firm. I'm going to take a sharp pencil, holding it vertical, and I'm going to mark around the entire weapon. And I'm also going to do the inside of the trigger guard area, as well as the trigger itself. So once you get this side laid out, I'm going to slowly rock the gun back up, and I'm going to verify that it is still on the center of that line, and that looks good. Sorry about the camera there, got my head in the way. And now I'm going to rock it down to the other side. Now this side may be a little difficult if you have your safety hanging off. Just be careful, and you can do it. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. Let's go around the weapon. Okay, and I'm also going to do the trigger guard and the trigger itself on the inside. Okay, so now we have the gun outlined, everything's looking good, and I'm going to take a compass, and I'm actually using 3/4 of an inch. I used a 1/2 inch on my mock testing, but by the time I spaced the stitches out from the edge, it was too tight. That was a reference that I had received online, and they weren't making a holster of this style, so I guess those dimensions were a little bit inaccurate for what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is just every so often I'm going to scribe a line, a reference mark, and kind of work my way around things. And when you're doing this, you want to make sure you keep your 90 degrees off the actual line you're scribing. And once I go all around the weapon, I'm going to just take a pencil and freehand and connect the dots to get into this area, and I'll work that all the way around the gun. You know, you don't necessarily have to go all the way around it, because obviously we're going to be taking off leather for the grip, but I'm going to do it just to do it, to know exactly where I'm at, and then we'll move forward from there and start cutting this thing out.